In 2022, 4.6 million people were barred from voting due to felony convictions. This is called voter disenfranchisement, which is when someone's right to vote is stripped from them. In addition to being blocked from voting for having a felony conviction, voter disenfranchisement takes other forms too, whether it's not being able to pay court-ordered sanctions or being forced into a waiting period before your right to vote is restored. 48 states have varying levels of restrictions. Some say you can't vote if you're in prison, some say you can't vote if you're on probation or parole, and 11 states say you can't vote even if you've served your sentence. Only 2 states, Maine and Vermont, have no restrictions at all. Of the 4.6 million people kept from voting in 2022 for having felony convictions, roughly a third were Black, despite Black people making up less than 15% of the general population. More than a fifth were women, almost half had completed their sentences, and more than 3/4 lived in their communities, either having completed their sentences or were on probation or parole. As the prison population has grown, so has the number of disenfranchised people. In 1976, roughly 1.2 million people were disenfranchised, compared to 4.6 million in 2022. Still, the number has declined somewhat over the last decade. In 2010, the number of disenfranchised voters was approximately 5.9 million people, and in 2016, it was 6.1 million people. Though the current number is still high, efforts to restore voting rights seem to be working. Since 2020, laws or policies have expanded voting rights in 8 states to some non-incarcerated people, like those on probation or parole, or those out of prison. Organizations around the country are working to restore the voting rights of formerly incarcerated people. In 2018, legislators in Florida passed Amendment 4, which restored voting rights to people with felony convictions who had finished their sentences, including probation or parole. And in 2022, advocates were able to secure the restoration of voting rights to people with felony convictions in Washington state. So will other states follow the lead of those pushing for the restoration of voting rights? That will depend on how strongly advocates and politicians push to expand voting access to formerly incarcerated people, and on how much the rest of the electorate calls for change.